All right, the top 20 albums of October. It was a fairly difficult list to make, and not because I was lacking in choices, but because there were so many great albums that came out this month. I wasn't sure how to order them because I began to feel like I just didn't have enough time with everything that was available to me. There was just such an overload of records that I could have included. There's a lot of things that I just are obviously going to take time to appreciate. So, of course, as the end of the year approaches, there's obviously more stuff out there, and I would encourage people to continue to research on their own what their options are, because there's just a deluge of releases that coming out throughout November as well. So, and I'll have some lists over the remainder of the year that will go over things that I missed, things that are worth covering, and things that just people sent in to me months after they released. I don't know why you do that, but they do it pretty constantly. So uh, basically, there was no real contest for the top five. Those were pretty much set. I would say maybe top six overall, but finding a number one was pretty difficult. I had to whittle it down to what I spent the most time with and what was most inspiring to me in terms of the amount of care that was put into this Malokarpatan record. It's their fourth record. I feel like they hit their stride with the third one. It felt very serious. And this is just a great work. It's an exceptional showing of what they can do and how they can tell a story through their own eyes and their own voice. So there's a lot to this record. It's a little bit psychedelic, it's a little bit progressive, but it's still heavy metal and it's still black metal. And that's kind of the perfect combination for my own taste. I think they did a fantastic job stepping away from the previous record into their own sort of illustrative voice beyond that point, but still keeping everything that you liked about Malokarpatan's sound. So, Vertumnus Caesar, for me, is the album of the month. But it was pretty close overall. I think there's a couple records on here that they just didn't quite have the lasting depth that comes with the themes here, and the themes and the lyrics are really a big part that helped me get here with this record. So easy top recommendation for this month, but not without a fight. So the constant state of flux that Afterbirth created on In But Not Of is it's evolutionary. It's like we're seeing the whole organism in one piece as it evolves over the years, and it sort of comes into vision as this constant fluxion between forms throughout, and it basically it's just a great death metal record, but also one that is hard to define. It's a progressive thing. It's certainly a death metal thing, and it doesn't stray too far from those general tenets in terms of what it does. But there are elements of rock and progressive music and many other things that go into this, and the unique performances that drive every corner of the beast and its malformed body here is it's impressively idiosyncratic, but also easy to listen to, and really worked well on repeat, particularly because it's not very long. So I think they did a more surprising job of following up the last album than I expected. I was kind of taken aback when I first listened to it, because it was almost like they were doing like a post-hardcore influenced brutal death metal sound that still has a little bit of the slam and everything in there too, but also some old school kind of thrash in there too. So a lot going on and a lot for me to like. To me, it didn't feel like a salad. It felt like a curated hall of mirrors. So definitely worth checking out. One of my highest recommendations of the year overall. And yeah, definitely deserves to be up here on the list. It was kind of fighting for number one, but that's just how it worked out. The sixth full-length album from Polish black metal band Furia. Futa Luna is, I guess it's just one of the better black metal records of the year. I think it touches upon exactly what I want from an aggressive band in this style. I appreciated the 30-minute ambient track at the end, even though many others might not have. And for me, this was just such an energizing and inspirational record for just what they put into it and the attack of it. Very simple, straightforward at a glance, but there's a lot of depth to their work otherwise. And the fact that these songs are built around some sort of dance element is pretty interesting, because it's so aggressive and shouted at that I just connected to it in a different way. So big recommendation for me. Very idiosyncratic release, and I had a lot that I liked about it. The latest and potentially last full-length album from California-based heavy metal band Sangal is exactly what it says it is. It's a dark parade. It's a dark march. It's our waltz into Mordor here, as they may not make another one, and this one's very dark and depressive and reflective upon not only their past but on the state of the world at present. This is definitely a pandemic deflated record in some sense, but also a thrillingly dark record for anyone who likes that about doom metal. And I would say epic heavy metal is more what they still do, and they've always kind of just been an 80s heavy metal band in spirit, but they've been their own thing just as long. So without parsing the genre of this band, it is just fantastic to see them back, and even if it was brief, and we'll see. So a quality record no matter where they are in their career, and I think it reinforces that the last record wasn't a fluke and that they still have it. A Dialogue with the Eeriest Sublime is the second full-length album from Italy-based black death metal band Vertebra Atlantis. And I would say this time around, this is more of a black metal, an eventful black metal record on top of being a death metal record. And they balance those elements in a very unique way on this conceptual album, which tells us a very sophisticated story about a personal philosophical journey in an interesting poetic way. I think being able to tear through the lyrics of a record like this really helps me kind of dig into it, and I really appreciate when bands or labels include lyrics with these kind of submissions, because I think it helped bump up the score of the record, but also I stuck with it more beyond the beautiful cover art and the great sound and the mixture of kind of almost late 90s black death metal, but also taste in some more progressive or technical death metal elements. It kept it very eventful and aggressive, and I found this is a little bit of a grower for me. Like, I was a little bit hesitant on how it would stick with me, so we'll kind of see how that sorts out at the end of the year. Songs for Satan from Dopelord is pretty straightforward. Just one of the catchiest doom metal related albums of the year. It's a kind of a stoner doom metal style. They have a very the last record was very catchy, and I think that it was catchy in spurts and little bits. And now here on this record, the whole thing is just memorable. It's a solid record. It's very succinct in just cutting these big songs into pieces, and it's just, I couldn't stop listening to it, and I'm still listening to it now. So he's a recommendation for me. Suffer the Fallen is the fourth full-length album from Cemetery Urn, and I think if you're just looking for a solid, traditional but unique in its own right death metal record, this is what that is. I mean, it certainly has a little bit of Angel Corpse, a little bit of Dead Congregation in there, but make your own associations. It's an immolation-esque heaviness to it. There's just basically the quality that they've been consistent with on all of their records is still there. I think if you're a fan of their self-titled record, this is probably a guaranteed win for you, because they reprise the same vocalist as far as I understand. So for me, it was just a no-brainer. I thought the songs matched my expectations, and kind of blew me away in terms of the production values being quite loud and pronounced, and gave you a sense of the full band in performance. So big fan of this band already, and this only reinforces that. The Falling is a fairly unique psychedelic doom metal record from Ives, a Austin, Texas-based band, mostly just one fellow who is pretty interested in Aleister Crowley, and I don't know how important that is to the success of this album. The theme is pretty interesting overall, but really the layers of the vocals, the lurch of the riffs, the kind of Candlemass-esque dramatics of the whole thing, and the strong vocal harmonies carry us through this thing pretty effortlessly. I think it's a very strong record, and much improved over their first record. This seems like the very concerted, thoughtful, and aggressive sort of record that stands out among anything else that you'll hear this year in terms of doom metal or stoner metal or rock and whatnot. So, well worth checking out. I think that there's plenty enough fans of Worm and Dream Unending that most people know what this is as a split. Is it substantial? Yes. Each band provides a solid half of a record here, and without any real compromise to their evolution. I think both bands have been taking leaps and strides with each release, and here we get Dream Unending continuing a little bit more down the path of their previous record in terms of a progressive doom metal style that is still deeply atmospheric and despondent and reflective. And Worm, there really are mid-transformation here in sort of a 90s gothic death doom metal sound, which is a little bit blackened and a little bit extreme too. It's pretty cool to witness both of them change over time. I think the really dramatic thing here is the Worm half. I think a lot more people I've seen online talking about it, because I mean, the songwriting is very strong and detailed on these pieces, so I hope that they're continuing down that path in the future. So check that out for yourself. That is an impressive split. This latest album from Slitter is black metal, and I think that Whiteheart is surprising in its melodic expressivity, its heavy metal influences, and its varietal showing overall. It feels like this is taking on almost a Bathory-esque flavor or flair to the way that he's expressing himself on this record, and I found it inspiring. The only thing is, I wasn't sent this for review, so I didn't know anything extra about it than what I experienced, and I decided not to write a review and just enjoy the album. The Path Narrows is the fourth full-length album from Burying Teeth, and this band, I think, they're just showing a little bit more atmosphere. They're relaxing a little bit more. There's a little bit of a doomed feeling here, and I think that's appropriate for the lyrics on this thing. It's a dark record that they wrote in the pandemic, but it also continues logically beyond their last couple of records. So this one is my favorite from them yet. I really like their second album quite a bit, but overall I think this has kind of overtaken it in terms of the one that I go to when I return to this band. Live by the Sword is the sixth full-length album from Cardinals Folly, and this is a traditional doom metal band from Finland, and one that has incorporated heavy metal influences more and more over time. And I say more of the traditional style of heavy metal, which is a vague sort of suggestion, but overall they're just writing quicker, catchier, to the point songs that are use repetition in a smart way, and they have a lot of personality to pack into those songs. So it was a great record. Abhorrent Dimensions is the latest full-length album from Sokro Curse, a blackened death metal band who are not so pronounced in their blackened affect. I would say they're influenced by melodic black death metal of the early 90s and maybe the mid-90s. But otherwise, you will hear elements of everything from immolation to demigod in their sound, and there's such a varied swath of influences and spectrum of experience here that we couldn't just nail them down into one place. Very interesting album, probably going to be a little bit underrated here as we move towards the end of the year, but a great one if you're willing to dig into it and give it the time it is too. Soma Negativa is a little bit of a surprise from Psychosfera, a post-metal band who have gone post-black metal / avant-garde dissonant black metal. And that shouldn't suggest that this is a soft, fluffy record, but more of a deranged, depressive, and nihilistic black metal record that uses dissonance in phrase in a very strong way, as well as finds they add a vocalist to their sound, which is pretty much over the top and kind of sells the record in terms of what it's able to communicate. So an interesting transformation and a memorable record. World in Wrath is a death thrash metal band from Savage Ruins. This is a solo black death metal or death thrash metal project from the fellow from Desecryptor and Forus. The style here is classic death thrash metal, and I would say the stuff that bands like Creator and Dark Angel influenced in the late 80s. And you could point to something like Massacre or something similar to that in terms of the general reference, but they expand that sound a little bit. There's an interesting bass guitar tone here that they use. There's a little bit of a technical touch to some of these songs. So you could compare some of this to Devastation, but there's also a little bit of a more modern touch to it that I think fans of like early Atheist would also appreciate. So worth checking out. Not a lot of people talked about it this month, and I kind of got it at the end of the month. So I wanted to stick it in here because this is exactly my kind of thing. Moras II is the second full-length album from Villa Alemana, Chile-based traditional doom metal band Moras. And let's call them an epic doom metal band in the style of something like Candlemass or related bands King Heavy and Procession. So there's certainly a heavy metal aspect to this, but it is much more in the late 80s Candlemass style of pacing and dramatic vocal style. Now there's much more to this album than just that style. There's quite a lot of personality here in terms of the use of acoustic and classical guitar touches, as well as what we could assign as a variety of vocal styles that are more engaging the more you listen. Now, if you don't speak Spanish, it's going to be a little bit maybe off-putting for you, but I know enough to where I could understand what they're saying on my part. So I really appreciated this record, and I would encourage folks to check out both of their records because they're a little bit underrated, and the folks involved are pretty impressive in their other projects in the past. Ashes, Organs, Blood, and Crypts is the latest full-length album from Autopsy. And now, I don't want to feel like I'm not, like I don't have the time or the energy for a new Autopsy album. I'm very excited about it. It's a great record. I love the bass tone. I think there's plenty of great riffs on this thing. Some of the punkish songs kind of drag. Some of the solos are kind of bad. But overall, this is a great energetic record from Autopsy, who's only seemed to be improving with each record they put out over the last decade or so. So they've come really far with changing their sound up. They've got a new lineup overall, and it's worked really well in their last two records. I think this one is even better than Morbidity Triumphant. At this point, I think that I scored it a little bit too low for how good it is. I think that I should have paid more attention to the additions on the bass guitar. I think it's added a lot to this album and what it's able to do. If you like the doom side of Autopsy, they've leaned into that here. If you like the punkish side of Autopsy, they've put some of that in there too, and all to great effect. Invoking the Abysmal Night is the latest full-length album from Finnish black metal band Agris, and we could call them a melodic black metal band, and this is probably a more of a return to their core personality. I feel like this is the real follow-up to their 2017 record. That's sort of my preference in their discography. I like that record quite a bit. And I feel like this album sidesteps what they had done for their 2019 record and goes back to what was kind of unique about Agris in the first place. And it really pays off here. They feel like they've considered every angle into this record, and ultimately I like the melodic songs they write best, but they've provided plenty of variety here and continue to improve that aspect of their sound so that there's more than just one type of song throughout the full record. Pretty strong record. Kind of a surprise that it was as good as it was, and I was glad to spend time with it. So what is Master's Murmur from Yellow Eyes? Yellow Eyes are working, this is a United States-based experimental black metal band, post-black metal band, however you'd see that. This is a preamble. It's an industrial folk album, as they describe it, that is sort of setting us up for their next full-length. And this is just a collection of songs which are deeply eclectic, impressive in their unique register, eerie, and I would say psychedelic in their the way that they come together as a full album. There are some black metal leaning pieces in terms of the rhythms later on in the second half of the album. So there's a lot that should appeal to folks who are already into their other records. Impressive album overall. I'm not sure, or I wasn't sure what it was when I first approached it, but it has a certain quality to it that made it repeatable and a very captivating experience. I find this very much an above average record, and had to cap off the top 20 because it was that compelling. Otherwise, we have some honorable mentions. Ecocide's Metamorphosis, great death thrash metal record, more leaning towards the early 90s style of death metal. If you're a fan of Asphyx or something like that, you'll appreciate that band. Certainly if you're a fan of early death and Morgoth. We have Sonopfer's New Somme d'Air, which is a sort of a medieval style, if you want to call it, black metal record out of France, and a fantastic band in terms of just creating quite a dramatic effect with everything they do. Uh, I wanted to include Seraphic Entombment's Sickness Particles Gleam on this record, or on this list, but I found that some of the vocal experiments didn't work for me overall, and some of the riffs didn't go anywhere for me as I kept returning to the album. Still a good record, very good debut, and I liked a lot of things about it. Um, Barbarian Swords Anti-Dogma Megaforce is one of two albums that they're going to release. I don't know if they're going to release another one this year or next year, but they recorded two, and this one is more in like a thrashing, bestial death metal style. It's got sort of a creator-esque stab to some of the pieces. It's not quite a war metal album, but it is raw and aggressive in that sense. And there's some other interesting records on this list. Check all of these out and see what you think.